What's going on? What's going on? Everybody. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. We are live right now with the after party of the Hershel Walker Raphael Warnock debate. We are here. Oh, we see the views are jumping. Got 12 people in here. Y'all make sure to stick around because we have a lot of interesting thoughts about what occurred on today. I don't even know why we're here right now. And the reason why I say that is because why is Hershel Walker running for Senate? Why is he running for Senate? He need to go coach Georgia Tech. I don't know what's going on right now. I really don't know. Georgia Tech has an open position right now. I'm going to let you know. All right. I don't know what's going on, but we're going to start in 1 minute. I want you all to come on in because we have a lot to talk about and we have time on today. We are open to all dialogue. Welcome, of course, to the HBCU community, as Senator Warnock is a proud Morehouse alum. So we're going to be talking about all of that on today. But if you all do not know me and the brand, if you all are new, my name is Randall Barnes. I am the founder of HBCU Pulse and a graduate of Fort Valley State University and still a resident of Georgia. So we're going to have a very interesting discussion about what occurred on today. All right. So we're going to make it happen. We're going to do a lot of great things with that. And we're going to start in 1 moment. So please send this out. First and foremost, send this out. And I want to say one more thing as well, that we have the debate on our YouTube. It was hard to find it. It was hard to find a debate. So if you want to see the debate, if you didn't get a chance to see it, if you want to, get memes and gifs from it, because it was a gifable debate. All right. But also, if you want to see the issues, you want to hear the replay, you want to hear how Reverend Warnock answered questions, you want to hear how Hershel Walker answered questions, please feel free to go to our YouTube. It is up right now. I cannot tell you if it will stay up, but I have it up right now because I want everyone to know what's going on and what the issues are. So make sure to tune into that. So we will be right back. So please stay tuned. What is going on, everyone? This is Randall Barnes, the founder of HBCU Pulse and the host of HBCU Pulse Radio, in the building for another special edition of the show on today. I'm not gonna lie to you. I just ran up my stairs because I forgot my charger. Oh my gosh. You see what Hershel Walker's doing to me? That's what this debate is doing. Jesus Christ. That's what this debate is. I had to go and get my charger to make sure that we'll be good for today. But we have an amazing show on today where we're going to be talking about the debate that just occurred between Raphael Warnock and Mr. Hershel Walker. First and foremost, I want to open up the floor to questions of the audience about how they felt about the debate. First and foremost, did the debate change your perception of the race? Didn't really change mine. But did it change your perception of how you feel about the Senate race? Did it make you more confident that Reverend Warnock's going to win? Did it switch you over to supporting Hershel Walker? Also, for all of our Democrats and also all of our supporters of Senator Raphael Warnock, are you confident? Did this make you more confident? Did this make you less confident? Did this make you think that maybe a sector of voters believe that Hershel Walker is the one to lead in the Senate? So we want to open up the floor to that, and we want to open up the floor to discussions about the debate in general. We're going to open up the phone lines midway into the show because we want you all to hear our take on it. The phone number is 314-804-7423. So you have thoughts on the debate, if you have thoughts on the race in general and any political affiliation, please feel free to call in. Now, we're going to be respectful. We're going to be respectful of me, of HBCU Pulse, and of our guest. We're going to make sure that we have intelligent exchanges of conversation. So I want to say this really quickly before we bring on our guest, Miss Anaya Warfield and Miss Genesis Ivy, who are student leaders at my HBCU, Fort Valley State University, because I guess some people didn't know. Here's what I want to say about the debate. I think that Hershel Walker accepted that debate because it was in his home field, if you will. It was on News Nation, and it was on News Nation affiliated stations. It was hard to find a debate. I covered that the fact that a debate was going to be on different local affiliates and it was going to be streamed. I couldn't find a debate. Tell me why I covered it on HBCUPulse.com and I couldn't find a debate. I had to really look, and I had the website, but I'm like, wait a minute, the stream isn't working. I'm trying to get it on my TV. So I had to watch it on my computer for the first part of the debate. Then I found out that it was also on my local Fox affiliate. Maybe I'm uninformed, but I did report on it. I also believe that a lot of the questions that were posed to Senator Raphael Warnock were very pointed. I'm 25 years old. I voted in 2 elections, 2016, 2020, and 2018 midterms. I've never seen a debate, and I'm a big political guy. I've never seen a debate in recent history that has had video shown and tweets on the screen. Has it ever happened before? Can someone in the comments or someone on Twitter or on HBCU League Pass, someone please let me know if that's ever happened. Did it happen in the 1980s? They didn't have Twitter back then. Did it happen in the 2000s? They didn't have YouTube back then. It didn't happen in 2016. Didn't happen in 2020. I don't think it's happening in any other races. Why did Raphael Warnock, Senator Warnock, have that video of his campaign rally shown? Questions that I need to know. And I just want to say this before we bring on our guest. Being a politician is a job. It is a job that we want people that are qualified for it. If I want to be a head coach of a football team, I like football. I like HBCU football. I cannot coach a football team. You want to know the reason why? Because I never played football on a professional level. I have no knowledge of how to call plays. When I play Madden, I lose because I'm a basketball guy. I'm not good at football. So I'm not going to apply to be Georgia Tech's football coach. Not going to apply to be Fort Valley's football coach because I'm not qualified. Hershel Walker is not qualified to be a senator because you would think that you will want someone who, number one, is qualified, and number two, is currently in the position that you're campaigning for. That's actually doing things, that actually has plans. I wanted to come in here and be like, well, let me be objective. Let me try to make sure that that people, have a room for discussion. Now, I want to have that. But I'm voting for Raphael Warnock. Let's figure out. I voted for him in 2020. Voting for him again. What is he doing wrong? He's doing nothing wrong. Someone tell me what he's doing wrong for Georgia. We'll open up the phone lines. We'll open up the floor to comments. Tell me what he's doing wrong. That's all I have for right now. I want to bring him in right now, Miss Anaya Warfield, who is the president of the Fort Valley State University chapter of NAACP. And we have Ms. Genesis Ivy, who is the current SGA legislative secretary. We're bringing them on right now. We got them on here. They're on the screen. How are y'all doing today?
Good. How are you?
You're doing well.
I am interesting right now. I feel very interesting because I had to watch that debate. Listen, I'm a wrestling fan. Like, you got Friday Night SmackDown on. You got football games on. You got preseason basketball on. I'm sitting up here watching Hershel Walker think he a police officer. All right? It's crazy right now. But we're going to get into that. First and foremost, I want you all to give your introduction. We're from HBCUs. We're from the Fort Valley State University. So I want you all to let me know, starting with you, Anaya, who you are and your best HBCU greeting.
I am Anaya Warfield, a second-year political science major from Atlanta, Georgia, currently the president of the NAACP chapter here at Fort Valley State University.
Love it, love it. So Genesis, listen, you SGA, you student government, all right? You student government at Fort Valley. So let us know who you are.
Good evening, everyone. I am Genesis Ivy, a third-year political science scholar from Warner Robins, Georgia, and I currently serve as the Student Government Association Legislative Secretary.
I love it. I love it. So first and foremost, before we get started with the conversation, I want to let you all know that we're streaming live on HBCU Pulse Twitter, on HBCU Pulse YouTube, and the HBCU Pulse channel on HBCU League Pass, channel 201. We're going to get the call lines going. You can call us at 314-804-7423. The call lines currently are not open, but we will open them during the discussion. Also, I see we have 84 people as we're watching live on YouTube. I believe that's 84 people. It might be cumulative, but I know there's a lot of folks watching on YouTube. I know that's our number one platform. We have 16,000 amazing followers on there. So if you all do want to support this show, you can purchase a super chat. Also, you can cash app us at $ HBCU Pulse or send a donation on PayPal to hbcupulse@gmail.com. So just make sure to support us and make sure to tap in. It's going to be an amazing discussion. So first and foremost, I want to open up the floor. I want to start with you, Genesis. So let's talk about, your role to Fort Valley and your political activism. So first and foremost, what made you choose Fort Valley as your HBCU?
So I am a third-generation student at Fort Valley State University. My father went here, and then his family before him attended Fort Valley State University. So because of the legacy that I have at Fort Valley State, I kind of wanted to continue my family's legacy. I'm local from Warner Robins, Georgia, and why not just go to school down the street, especially if it's at the #1 public HBCU for 5 consecutive years in Georgia?
Number one.
Exactly. As far as my political activism, I was given the opportunity to serve as a democracy fellow through the Fair Election Center, which is it's a fellowship. I'm called a democracy fellow through Campus Vote Project, which is under the Fair Election Center. So I was able to earn Fort Valley State its first ever voter-friendly campus designation, which was basically me and a few of my partners during this coalition of the 2020 presidential election. We created this coalition, and it was a campus plan that we got voted on through this national program, which basically certified Fort Valley State as a campus that is trying to institutionalize civic engagement at the collegiate level.
I love it. I love it. So I want to toss to you, Anaya. So you're NAACP president at Fort Valley. You're doing a lot of amazing things. So tell me, number one, why you chose Fort Valley State University as your HBCU, and talk to us about your political activism on campus.
Well, to be quite honest, I got a late start to my college tours after graduation. So Fort Valley was one of my first tours. And after I just felt home, warm, loving people around me. And that was it from there. As far as my political activism, I kind of got my voice in that during Black Lives Matter, when we were shut down during COVID, protests, Breonna Taylor, all that was going on. And then now getting people registered to vote, voter education, all that is just a big focus with this election season for me.
So I think that that's so real, because I think that for me, what I've always said is that a lot of our generation, our call to action politically was because of what happened with Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman. That's when I was in high school, because I was in high school, I was a freshman when Trayvon Martin was murdered. I saw a lot of my peers active in what was going on, active in what was happening politically, active in what the Stand Your Ground law was. So I think you have different occurrences and instances that makes young people and folks in our age range care about what's happening politically, civically, and socially. And sort of my fear is that because this isn't a presidential election, because this is a midterm, and although we do have Senator Raphael Warnock, who went to Morehouse, and you have, a Leader Abrams, who is a Spelman College alum, and she ran, in 2018, and she also is very big nationally. I still feel as if there's going to be people that don't vote. I feel as if there's going to be people that are young that feel as if their voice doesn't matter. And there's a lot of this information. So I want to start with you, Anaya. How do we get people in our age range, young people in college, young alumni, how do we get people engaged on how to vote?
It's all about connecting to what we cater to or what we attract. I've noticed, like, you know, a lot of people our age are engaged in music and different brands and stuff like that. So if you center events around voting, for example, we had a Black Youth Renaissance Tour tailgate not too long ago. Had music, 360, free food, free, you know, merchandise. That brought students out because that caught their eye. Oh, they have music, all this going on, and you get them to come out, connect with them, talk to them, and get them registered to vote. So I think, you know, you got to connect with our audience.
I love it. I love it. That's one thing I always said when I was at Fort Valley is that you have to make that convenient, because everything isn't a homecoming concert. Everything isn't a probate. Everything isn't a pep rally. You have to get folks engaged on the issues. And I'm about to say a name that, because I see some Hershel Walker supporters in here. I see different political affiliations in the comments. You want to know one thing that got a lot of people that were young, especially in the 2000s, engaged politically? Jon Stewart. Because Jon Stewart made politics fun. It made you want to know it so you can watch his show and laugh about it. That's what gets young people engaged, because sometimes, you know, we want to be engaged. We want to make change, because typically in college, like, you're in this position where it's like, hey, I see the issues now. I see how it affects us. I want to make change. But sometimes you got to make it entertaining. Sometimes you got to make it fun. And I feel like certain times a lot of politicians don't know how to do that, you know, because a lot of times a lot of folks are coming from our community, and a lot of folks don't know how to be genuine. And that's the big problem that we have. But Genesis, I want to toss to you, because I know ever since you started at Fort Valley, you've been doing a lot to make sure that students are engaged politically. So what have you been doing to make sure that our generation is ready to vote, even in a midterm year?
Mm-hmm. So I agree a lot with what Anaya said. It's all about our approach, and you have to be relatable to students, especially at an HBCU. So we understand the voter education aspect of it, but how are we going to make that interesting? And that's the question that we posed. So I know last year we hosted a movie night. We showed Selma. So why not take something that's educational and make it interesting? Selma centered during the Civil Rights Movement and the Voting Rights Act. And we also had Chick-fil-A catered, because who doesn't want to eat while they watch a movie? So it's those small things that actually go a long way. And then after the movie night was over with, we had students come up to me and it's like, how do we join the movement? How do we be a part of this club and be a part of the cause? And I feel like voter awareness and voter education really goes a long way, because now you have a group of students that want to be a part of something just because you were able to relate to them.
That's real. I want to say that typically folks don't eat at the movie theater, typically, because of the fact that the food is very high priced. I went to go see Doctor Strange. I went to go see Doctor Strange. I paid about $30 for a purchase of popcorn and a slushy. Look at the world. So that's what's up. And also we got Chick-fil-A on a lot of HBCU campuses. It's always great to eat Chick-fil-A. So let's talk about the debate. Let's go and hop into it. I wanted you all to give your background, because you all are currently in school. You are currently attending HBCU. And you all are going to be voting in this election because you all are in Georgia. So let's talk about the election. Let's talk about what's going on. So first and foremost, I want to start off by reading off the platform points briefly of both Senator Raphael Warnock and Hershel Walker, because I wanted to do some homework, and I already am well versed in this. I want to do some homework just to show a little bit of a difference between the two candidates. So Hershel Walker's platform has 9 points. And it centers on job creation, energy independence, standing for conservative values, support for small businesses and American workers, secure borders, fund the police, support the troops, keep the American dream alive, preserve the Constitution. If you go on his website, which I implore you all to do that, none of these points have any action except for one. And the one that has action is preserve the Constitution. It's the only point with an actionable step. And he says on his website, he's not a politician. So he said, and I mean, he's not a politician. He's more qualified to be Georgia Tech's coach than a politician. And I stand by that. I'm going to say that. I said that, okay? He said on the website, Hershel will vote to confirm constitutional judges to our courts who will protect our rights to bear arms, to ask questions, and to make our own decisions for our families. Own decision is a very interesting verbiage on his campaign website. But I think that's interesting because we see action right here. It's not a plan, but we see action. I think often what happens with Republican candidates is that you want to get someone in that's popular. You want to get someone in that checks the boxes that you think voters want. And you want to get them in so they can just be figureheads and promote an agenda. That's all I see right here. I see nothing but fluff in all of this. It's culture wars, it's dog whistles. It's nothing substantive here. But then I look at Senator Warnock's plan, which, to be honest with you, I can't go through it that quickly because it's expensive. So I can't go through it that quickly. So he has agriculture, climate, criminal justice reform, education, healthcare, infrastructure, jobs in the economy, LGBTQIA plus issues, reproductive rights, national security and defense, voting rights, veteran and military families, working across the aisle, immigration, and cutting costs. And that's 15 points that are covered in his platform. But I want to center on two. So education. So if you go to his education tab on Raphael Warnock's campaign website, he talks about his prominent time at Morehouse, which is an HBCU, which is Dr. King's school. He often talks about it. So he talks about how he went on a full faith scholarship. And I know I'm on one because I got to pay Sally Mae. And they keep sending letters. And they kept calling me. I had to call them and say, can y'all start calling me? I'm going to pay y'all. So I was on a full faith scholarship. I was praying that loan would come through. I was praying that Parent Plus loan would make it happen for me. Because I thought sometimes I wasn't going to be at Fort Valley. And it was one time my junior year, I'm like, man, this is it. This is not going to work for me. And then I had an administrator, VP Kane, who is not at Fort Valley anymore. He stood in the gap for me, gave me a scholarship. And then my loan came through, and I said, man, listen, I'm going to go crazy this year. And I did. I did do that my junior year. But I was like, I almost went here. I'm going to go crazy because that's where a lot of us go into because college is expensive. Whether it's a public school like Fort Valley, whether it's a private school, college is expensive. And he talks about it in his plan. He talks about support for robust pre-K and nutritional programs that will ensure every child gets a fair start. He supports and is fighting for student loan forgiveness. He talked about it tonight. He supports vocational training, trade schools, and apprenticeship programs for those that don't want to go to college. And then he talks specifically about his support for HBCUs, and he brings up what he did in his position as a senator. He secured nearly $260 million in funding for HBCUs in the American Rescue Plan, him and Senator John Ossoff. And he's fighting for funding for HBCUs through the Ignite HBCU Excellence Act. And we can talk about healthcare too, but I want to stick on that because I don't want to just talk on. I want to hear you all talk. But what I see here as an example is that he has a plan. He has things that he's done. I didn't hear anything tonight. I don't see anything on Hershel Walker's website about what he's going to do as senator. So that's what confounds me. And it confounds me that polls are saying it's a 50-50 race. So I want to start with you, Genesis. What are you thinking about the political climate right now? And we're specifically talking about the Senate race. What are you thinking about the political climate right now and the support that Hershel Walker is getting?
I think that Mr. Walker is just a face. I think that he's just, he doesn't believe in any of these things. And perhaps he wants to keep the Constitution the same and conservative values. But I think that Hershel Walker is easy to control, and that is why the Republicans have pushed him into this position. Because if you listen to how he spoke during the debate and the things he said, nothing was original. And it was very vague and just border control. That's it. How are we going to control the border if that's your stance on that? So I think that Mr. Walker is literally just a puppet that the GOP wants to control, and they can control him because I don't think that he has the competency to understand that. And perhaps he needs this. I've been doing a lot of research on Mr. Walker. He owes people money. It's not looking too good. So when you're a senator, you can make money. He doesn't care about the people of Georgia. He hasn't even been a Georgia resident for that long. He just recently moved back to Georgia for this race. So yeah, he has supporters, but those supporters are only supporting him because they want to control the Senate.
So I want to show this on the screen. This is from Lulu. And I wanted to say, because he said just because Warnock has a plan doesn't mean his plan is good. But don't you got to have a plan to do something? Don't you got to have a plan? Like I'm confused. So here's the thing. So we don't want our politicians to have a plan. Like these are the things where it's like we have to redefine what a good candidate is. I think we got to redefine what politics is in general. Because in general, you have to, because here's what I learned in entrepreneurship. Because, we have HBCU Pulse, we're growing in exponential way. We have 400 people that's in here right now. And one thing I learned when it comes to entrepreneurship is that you have to see a problem and find a solution. If you don't see the problem and don't have a solution, what are you starting your business for? And that's what, watch Shark Tank. Shark Tank was on tonight. Watch Shark Tank. They'll tell you, okay, what's the problem? What's the solution? How is this going to make me money? But you have to start with the basis of your purpose. So if you have no purpose, what are you running for? So he has a plan, and you might disagree with that plan. But Lulu, I want to ask you in the comments. You might have already responded. Tell me why you do not agree with the plan. And I see you did respond. Let me go to it. He says, so you favor carving up. What? That makes no sense, sir. So we're going to take that off the screen. Because come on now. So what you're doing is you're conflating issues. You're making issues out of nothing. Like, come on, you're trying to catch people. Come on, man. Anyway, because I got time today. Listen, I got time. It's a Friday. You said I got my hoodie. I bought it this week. You know what I'm saying? And it fits, man. Oh my gosh, I feel great. It fits. All right. You might see this at the Fountain City Classic. All right. So I got time today. All right. So I want to toss to you, Anaya. So we see this comment and we see, other comments, and even just in general, not just on YouTube, we see comments just in general about, these issues that I don't really think are important. But what's important is economics. What's important is voter suppression. What's important is education. And I think that a lot of Georgians are voting on based on who they like and not on who's going to actually make a change and represent Georgia well. So what do you think about the climate of the race right now in Georgia?
Trying to choose my words wisely, but personally, I feel like it's a joke. I mean, I, from the jump, said this debate should not have happened. And we could see from the results of it after the aftermath of it. That's why it's just very important that people are educated on who they are voting for and why. Like, I have a problem with people just voting for, I like him because everybody else like him, or I like him because this, that. No, like, you need to look into these people who you are putting in these positions that are creating things for us that we have to live by. And then when these people are in office, we have so much to say. When we can control the vote, if we know who we are voting for, that's where the problem begins. It begins with us, I feel like. We need to learn more about who we are voting for and why, so we can have the right people in office.
And I think that that's important because a lot of folks they're simply not informed on the vote. And that's the problem, is that we get so upset over things that aren't important. And we don't understand that a lot of our lives are determined by the government. A lot of it is. And even if you have Republicans that are saying, we need limited government, that can't happen because there's certain things that government does that's good. There's certain things that government does that's good. You have public HBCUs that get state funding and federal funding. That's good. You have HBCUs that are enshrined in the government by Supreme Court order. So it's like there's things that politics does that's good. And I hate that in general, politics is politicized. Politics is politicized, but also politics is vilified. It's politicized and vilified. It's politicized. When I say it's politicized, is that we're going to make an issue out of anything because we don't like the person. And also we believe that something isn't right, but are we looking around at the broader world and the broader state in this case to see if it's correct, to see if things are right? And I think that is our problem. And that's what I'm not rocking with when it comes to Hershel Walker, because it's like, what is your plan? Number one, like I said, what is your plan? And also number two, in the debate, I want to start on the debate. I'll just say this off rip. Why is the only thing that you're doing, you're attacking Raphael Warnock? Why?
And Biden.
The first thing, and President Biden. Like, the first thing that you see Republicans often do is they go on attack. In 2012, you have President Barack Obama, who is very competent. He's very articulate, always has been, always will, even though folks don't like him. It is what it is. You don't like him, but he was sharp. And a lot of people say, and it's still widely held, that he lost the first debate to Mitt Romney. And I was young when I was watching it. I think I was in about 10th grade. And I'm like, he lost. And I heard a lot of people saying that. It wasn't just on the conservative echo chambers. It was a lot of Democrats that were saying that. I was hearing it on Tom Jordan and other places saying that he lost the debate, but he won the other two and he eventually won the election. Why did we say he lost the debate? Because a lot of people said he wasn't strong enough. Mitt Romney was on the attack and they felt as if he showed strength. And I think oftentimes in debates, Republicans want to show strength. They want to show I'm tough instead of talking about the issues that affect voters. And that's the first thing that I thought about when I was listening. Like, you're not answering the question. I tweeted about it at Author B. You're not answering the question. So we were talking in the group chat. So now I want you to expound on that because you said you were frustrated by Hershel Walker. So tell me why you were frustrated.
Very frustrated. One, no answers were given for any of his questions. More so rebuttals on the attacks Reverend Warnock was saying about him. It was just frustrating because it just you have Warnock here saying everything he has done, wants to do, whatnot, and then you have Walker. Well, Warnock says he's done this, but he hasn't done this. And under the Biden administration, it just wasn't here, and it was just frustrating. It was like we're not getting. Well, he's not getting anywhere. Warnock is, and I feel like if people don't see that and not take that same energy I have to the polls, I don't understand what the outcome may be, or
I tell you the outcome, or the outcome's gonna be Hershel Walker gonna be our senator. And oh my gosh, the comedian Stephen Colbert on CBS, he gonna have some fun. The new host of The Daily Show, because Trevor Noah's leaving. The new host of The Daily Show, oh man, he gonna make a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, if we do vote, we keep someone in that's actionably doing things. Like what I think that a lot of folks that are disagreeing with Reverend Warnock, I think a lot of folks, can they really tell me what he's doing wrong? Outside of, they try, like 9-year-olds are picking their sex. What? How is that affecting you, sir? How's that affecting you, ma'am? But what about the things he's doing to cap insulin? Because my mom has diabetes and she uses insulin. And that matters to me because I want my mom to be here. I want my mom to be here and live a healthy life. And I want her to see me succeed, see my brother graduate high school. That's what I want to see. So that's something that affects me. And when I hear him say I'm going to directly deal with that, and he's talking about that on Capitol Hill, that matters to me because that's something that directly affects me. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing I'm not really truly understanding is that I want somebody to tell me in the chat, because we got 7 of the folks in here, bring it up to 1,000 and like the stream, please. But come on now. I want someone to tell me in the comments if I see it, because a lot of folks that's commenting and a lot of trolls in here. I see y'all trolls. What's up, trolls? All right. I see y'all. But please tell me what Raphael Warnock is doing that's wrong. And we're not going to have the phone lines tonight because, to be honest with you, couldn't get them up. But we'll have them up later on at another stream. But please comment because I want to know what Raphael Warnock, Senator Warnock's doing that isn't for Georgia and that's wrong. But I'll tell you a lot of things I thought were wrong. I thought the first thing that was wrong is the News Nation host. The moderators of this debate were terrible. Horrible. They were horrible. It was a planned attack on Senator Warnock because like some of these questions, like why are you asking in a senatorial debate? And I understand that senators can have positions on it. I get it. And a lot of these things go before the Senate when it comes to different actions. But at the same time, why in a Senate debate are you asking like how they feel if Vladimir Putin does a nuclear attack? What is he supposed to say? Well, I don't think he should do it. What do you think about say? Is that we're going to defend our freedoms? What is the answer to that? For both of them, that question made no sense. And why? I know we in Georgia. The Braves are in the playoffs. My brother's a big baseball fan. I'm not. I'm an Atlanta Hawks fan. It's going down next week. But like, why are we asking about the Atlanta Braves in the last portions of a debate where there's so many more in important things? Why? You know what I'm saying? So it was just so many things. I want to go question by question. I want to get you all's take on it. All right. So we had the opening statement where like I saw Hershel Walker, he immediately went to sort of the facing of, hey, like, I'm a good person. Y'all vote for me. He's not good. And then I'm telling you, the first thing I thought about when Reverend Warnock spoke, I thought he was about to say, giving honor to God, who's the head of my life. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, wait a minute. This ain't Ebenezer.
Yeah.
I got scared. I'm like, uh-oh, I don't think it's church because I need you. We got to get out of church. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like we need to go after him. But he started off. He talked about he's from Savannah, he's from the projects, whole entire thing. But I swear, I was like, Reverend Warnock, I know you're not about to hit me with giving glory to God, who's the head of my life. I was like, oh my God, this is about to be a long night. But he got right. All right, so that was the opening statement. I was like, oh my gosh. But the first question was to Hershel Walker, and the question was, if elected, what is one idea you would champion to reduce inflation? I personally think he did not answer the question because I don't think he knows what he's gonna do to decrease inflation. And the reason why I don't think he knows is because his handlers didn't tell him what to say. So I want to start with you, Anaya. What was how did you feel about his answer to that question?
He definitely went off track. I mean, he didn't answer the question at all. I think, is that when he went into the energy thing about us being energy dependent? So
yeah, like he went into that. And it didn't make sense at all. I want to like stop there, and I want to give a little bit of a explanation into what that means, just in case we have younger viewers that are watching. So energy independence means the notion that the United States should limit the need to import foreign sources of energy from overseas, but Canada and Mexico are part of North America. So they're not a part of that talking point, but they're talking about other things in other places. So you hear that as a Republican talking point, often saying that it should be in America. But I just felt like he didn't answer that question. He flip-flopped on that question. But he did talk about energy independence in that point.
Yes. He segued. I mean, he just didn't go into the question about bringing inflation down or helping, us reduce that. It was just his whole thing
was messed up. I'm telling you, because it's like people have to make sense here. They have to make sense. And how are you saying that we're getting energy from other places, but then America's giving energy to other places too? That didn't make no sense at all. I'm like, sir, pick one. Okay. I need you to pick one at this point. But Genesis, I want to talk to you. So the first question, and I want to read it again because they kept reading the questions again. Because I want to first of all say that Raphael Warnock can hear. Okay. And he has good hearing. All right. He has that Morehouse hearing. All right. He has that. Okay. That's first and foremost. So they kept restating the question. He was like, no, I heard you. So the question that we're talking about is the first question. And the question was, if elected, what is one idea you would champion to reduce inflation? And that was to Hershel Walker. That was the first question before the follow-up. So how did you feel about how Hershel Walker answered that question?
It was hostility. He came out of the gate with hostile energy. He directly attacked Senator Warnock and said he is the reason that inflation is the way it is. He and Joe Biden is the reason that we have inflation, even though Senator Warnock has created a bill and signed the bill, the Inflation Act, to reduce inflation. That Senator or that Mr. Walker doesn't approve of, and has mentioned several times that he doesn't approve of that bill. So I feel that his answer very much was not on track because he didn't have an answer. He doesn't know how to answer these debate questions. All he knows how to do is attack and place the blame on someone else. That's what he's going to always do. He doesn't know how to fix inflation because they haven't told him how to fix inflation. He wasn't prepared for the question.
I totally agree. And I agree with this right here. So this is Vivica Wallace. She said that they went at Reverend Warnock's personal life and not Walker. They really did. Mm-hmm. Like, did y'all see that portion? And this was later on in the debate, and we're going to talk about it. But did y'all see the portion where they brought up a specific video? And they brought up a Hershel Walker video too, but 4 different instances where you had them specifically target Raphael Warnock. I just feel like that's targeted. And I think that that's the reason why Hershel Walker chose this debate, because I checked. It wasn't on PBS. Because simply you have your PBS debates, you have these other debates, and a lot of the debates in 2020, you had John Ossoff, David Perdue, and even Raphael Warnock and Kelly Loeffler. they debated on PBS, and it was available for the whole nation to see in several places on YouTube, but also it was on local PBS stations in Georgia. It wasn't even on PBS. It was on Fox. And I guess I appreciate it being on Fox, but it wasn't on PBS. And I thought there's a reason why it wasn't on PBS. It's because it was News Nation. And News Nation has a specific agenda. And in News Nation, they say, oh, we're nonpartisan. Y'all slant right. Let's be real. Y'all slant right. Come on, man. Come on, man. I got good hearing too. All right. Listen, I got good hearing. I got Fort Valley hearing. All right. You know what I'm saying? Because I get some of the money that I'm not paying to my tuition because our tuition is sort of low. All right. So I get that money and I do it for my hearing. All right. So I can hear very well. And that's my thing here. So I want to go to the follow-up. The follow-up is, would you consider cutting military funding? And we know Hershel Walker is going to find a way to say no. So how do you all feel about that follow-up question? Now, do you think that was even a good question? I want to start with you, Genesis. Do you think that was even a good question?
I don't think it was a good question at all. We know how the different parties feel about cutting funding for anything for the police, for the military. I don't think that the question aligned very well. And I don't understand why these questions aren't more centered on the people of Georgia, so to speak. I feel like cutting government funding is maybe more of a question for Washington than it is for a question in Georgia. But that's just my take on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like I said, that was a situation where, although the Senate can vote on stuff like that and there's allocation of funds that they agree and disagree on, I just feel like it wasn't a lot of questions for Georgia. It was a lot of national questions, because I think that the News Nation crowd knew that there was going to be a national audience for this debate, although no one could find the debate. And like I said, I reported on it on HBCUPulse.com. Y'all go look at it. I reported on the different ways you'll be able to watch it. And even I couldn't find it. I couldn't find a good stream until I realized it was on Fox here in Byron, Georgia, where I'm at. So, I'm just saying, I feel like a lot of this stuff was nationalized. So they asked this question to Reverend Warnock, and this was a loaded question. Do you take any responsibility for the financial hardships that Georgians are facing? That was such a pointed question. I'm like, does he take responsibility? So what I'm gonna say, yeah, I take responsibility. It's my fault. It's my. Don't vote for me. It's my fault. But vote for him. Don't vote for me. Like, what type of question was that? So, and do you think that was a fair question? How do you think Reverend Warnock answered that?
I think he answered it well. I mean, the questions weren't fair. I feel like the whole debate was just poorly organized. But he did bring up his Tax Cut and Inflation Reduction Act. So he segued good into answering the questions and how he has helped the cost of stuff go down or whatnot.
So I want to bring this comment up because this is so true. Inflation was coming no matter what. And what a lot of people don't understand is about the gas prices. And this is something that I wasn't hearing a lot especially when the gas prices started going up, is that we had a standoff with Russia and they attacked Ukraine. And a lot of that oil is coming from overseas. So Russia doing their thing and they messing things up. So yeah, gas prices goes up. And Joe Biden said that, but people don't like Joe Biden. People don't like President Biden. So they're like, oh, I'm not hearing that. Like, there's reasons why these things happen. This is so true. So shout out to you, Jason. Good stuff. All right. We're going to spotlight some more stuff because the phone lines aren't open. But that is an amazing point, that inflation goes up and down. That happens. And what you see is that Democrats in Washington work to lower it. I mean, even though y'all don't agree with it, let me know what you don't agree with in the comments. Or y'all can buy a super chat too. Y'all can buy a super chat. I just want to let y'all know. Y'all cash out HBCU Pulse. I read y'all thing on screen. If you're a Hershel Walker supporter, cash out us. Okay, I'm black too. You know what I'm saying? So I listen, cash out us. You know what I mean? We can. I answer your question. All right. But anyway, so let's move on. So they asked the question to Raphael Warnock: can you explain how the law negatively impacts minority votes? And I believe that in the 60 seconds he had allotted, I think that Reverend Warnock answered that well. I honestly think he did. And I think that, and I'm going to be real, I think that there's questions that I wished that Reverend Warnock would have answered better. And I wish that there were different attacks that Hershel Walker gave him that I wish he would have answered better. And I think he was sort of disheveled with certain things because it was sort of an ambush. But I think this was a great answer in 60 seconds because this is an hour-long type of issue. We can talk about that issue for an hour in itself. So Genesis, like, this is something that's specifically for you because, like I said, you've been working to get our generation and folks in our age range registered to vote. So how did you feel about how Raphael Warnock answered that question?
I think that he answered it like really well. He mentioned Senate Bill 202, which is actually it's SB 202 for short, and it is a 98-page voter suppression law that Governor Kemp signed April of 2021. And it was after the so-called voter fraud after the 2020 presidential election. We all know that Trump was very upset with Kemp after Georgia turned blue. And so Kemp released this 98-page bill that directly, kind of indirectly attacks minority voters, specifically African Americans. So when Raphael Warnock gave that in his answer, I feel like that really was like a lightning bulb, and it's like, okay, like that is the answer that he should have gave. Now, this bill directly affects African Americans because now, like he mentioned, if you want to drink a bottle or pass out a bottle of water or food or drink at the polls, you're going to jail. Yeah. You can't do that anymore. The voter window, early voting is closed. African Americans are normally the ones that have to go out and early vote because we're the ones working the crazy hours, 9 to 5 jobs to support our families. Souls to the polls, mobile voting, done in Fulton County, the Atlanta areas. That's how we get our people registered to vote. You can't do that anymore. They're considered felons. Voter IDs. African American people normally don't just have, like, if you don't have a driver's license, they're not just going to have a passport or a state issued ID. You used to be able to just give them a nice signature and now you're able to vote, and now that's not the case. So I feel that Senator Warnock gave a great answer and a great explanation when he utilized Senate Bill 202.
I think that was great because it shows the mastery of the issues. Mm-hmm. And that's an issue that he has to fight against. And that's something where you see in a lot of Republican-controlled states, just like Georgia. Georgia, you can say Georgia's purple, but you have a governor that's a Republican. We'll talk about that more later on. We have a governor that's Republican. He was Secretary of State. He was doing different things to subjugate minority in Georgia from voting. And it happens everywhere because you have Republicans that use their power to make sure that they stay in power. Because I think Republicans understand, and conservative voters and conservative folks understand, that you want to keep control of local and state government. You know, national, they want to keep control of national too, but national is like, it is what it is. But the Supreme Court is conservative because they got their guy in, he did that. And then he also appointed these different judges to the bench, so they got that. But they want to keep the state and local rights and the state and local control because they want to make it harder to vote. So I think that conservatives are really good at that. And I feel like well played. That's why I say well played. You know what I mean? Because it's like that's one thing that I see. We have to be, we have to really think about that. We have to really see that. And that's one thing I really also, another thing too, because I saw a comment and I can't scroll up. There's a lot of folks that's in the chat that said tangibles for your vote. I agree with that. I'll rock with that. I'll rock with the black first. I'm with that. At the same time, is that, two folks that you're voting for.
Can I interject?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to interject on what Mr. Walker said to this. I don't know if you're trying to give it to her, but I just have to say this. Anaya, my apologies. His response to Senate Bill 202 was that it makes voting easier and it makes voter fraud easier to detect. So how can you, as an African-American man and a resident of Georgia, sit here and have read through Senate Bill 202 and believe that a bill as such that has taken away mobile voting that we use predominantly as African-Americans makes it easier to vote? Voter fraud doesn't exist. It's not a thing.
Not a thing at all. Not a thing at all. No, don't be sorry for that because you said something real. It's not a thing at all. And I think that, and to jump a little bit, I think that when you look at the question of, do you believe that President Biden defeated Donald Trump in 2020? Sir, does 2 + 2 = 4? He might have said no. Okay, first and foremost. But also, I'm like, wait, why are we still talking about this, man? First of all, why are we still talking about that man? Why are we still talking about that man? He ain't president no more. And I understand that we have like the investigations, he had all this stuff. He had January 6th. We were live on January 6th. This is where this idea even came from to do this show. We did a live show on January 6th on Instagram where we took callers and we talked about it with HBCU students at that point. So that's been why we even did this live in general. But like, bro, I'm so tired of that, man. Like, why can y'all stop asking grown people if that man the president when they got a problem with him being the president? Like, come on, man. They like, he's not a good president. Also, he won. Like, what? Like that was such a crazy question. But I want to say this to go back to my point before I get to Anaya, is I understand the whole entire situation of tangibles for votes. But you want to get someone in place that you can negotiate with. Black men, do you think that Hershel Walker is going to hear us talk about reparations? Do you think Hershel Walker, a University of Georgia grad, he was good in football, a University of Georgia grad, do you think he's going to sit down with me and talk about HBCU funding? I'll wait, because what you have to understand is that in politics, you normally have two choices. And it's other folks that can run on the ticket. I get it. But you normally have two choices. And those two choices are typically Democrat and Republican. You look at the issues, you look at who they are, and you see who you can best negotiate with. And I think that clearly the best person to negotiate with in this instance is Reverend Raphael Warnock, because he's in the community. He's been to Fort Valley, hasn't he? He's been to Fort Valley a couple times. So y'all seen him. He spoke on campus. You know what I'm saying? So like, he's out in the community. He's doing things. So I want to just say that I'm a black man and I hear y'all. Black first, I get all that. But this whole entire notion of tangibles for votes and that being the reason that a lot of black folks aren't voting, that's insane. But we're going to move on because I want to toss to you, Anaya, because I want to move on to this next point that we talked about. Did President Biden defeat Donald Trump in 2020? That was the next question. And then they asked, regardless of who wins, we accept the results of the election. Do we realize that don't even matter? It really does not matter, because that doesn't mean that Hershel Walker is going to say, oh, y'all lost. It doesn't really mean that. But I want to ask you this now about those two questions. Do you think that question should even have been asked? Because I don't think it should have been asked.
Yeah, the between Biden and Trump election, that question should have not been asked. It gave very much kind of like a national run, like trying to put out there that Walker's I don't know, I was reading the tweets on Twitter and whatnot, and they were very saying how is trying to put out there, maybe not Walker, I'm sorry, Reverend Warnock is trying to run for president or whatnot, but they're, like I said, this is a Senate race about Georgia. The presidential race is over. Biden is now president. That question should not have been answered. Trump is no longer president. The election was not rigged. And the questions didn't make sense. You know, they were very off topic when we could have been talking about so much more during this debate. So much more. And it's like, because they do the same thing with Stacey Abrams too. They have a commercial here in Georgia where she was on The View and they asked her if she would run for president. I don't know if she actually said it, because I didn't see the clip. I don't know if she actually said it, but they had a way she said absolutely. I don't know if she really said that. You know, supposed to be lying. But like, It's like, why do y'all care about that? Like, and I understand like they're trying to say, oh, do you want this on a national level? But dude, we're not talking about 2024. We're not talking about 2028. Because if Stacey Abrams or Raphael Warnock decided to run, they probably wouldn't run to about 2028 if we're being real. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's something that's 8 years away. Why is that even a discussion at this point? Like, y'all are trying to scare, like, what I see all the time is that Republicans often try to scare people into voting. Halloween got to be their favorite holiday because y'all try to scare people into voting. It's like, what's the point of it? Because it's like, at this point, why can't y'all talk about the issues? And the reason why y'all can't is because a lot of the issues that Democrats champion, the majority of people rock with. That's just simply the truth. So let's move on. So they then asked Hershel Walker about his abortion allegations, to which he did not answer this question. And then he proceeded to try to attack Raphael Warnock and so he has stuff too. He has stuff that he's done too. And it's like, oh my gosh, man, answer the question. It was very childish, tit for tat.
Very childish. I'm like, bro, could you answer the question? Listen, I gotta go to sleep, man. Like, I feel like, oh man, because first of all, it was like 7:30. But I'm like, man, come on, man, answer the question, bro. Because at the end of the day, like, you did it. And we have proof you did it. And your son said you did it. So come on.
Exactly. And the commentators instigated with Reverend Warnock, but they didn't instigate with Mr. Walker when it came to the abortion allegations. But they definitely instigated when it was talks about Reverend Warnock and his church and those allegations. And that just gave a nasty taste in my mouth because of the commentators.
It was biased, very biased.
Very
biased. So we have some super chats. I want to say thank y'all for the super chats. So I want to show this. MAGA is the highest degree of Satanism. What are the odds of the acronym happening? I don't know what that means, but I got you, sir. I got you. I think you somewhere on the right track, but I appreciate the $10, my man. Appreciate it.
He's very passionate.
Very passionate. All right. I'm not gonna say they Satanists, but they're Satanist adjacent. Okay. I think they cousins. I think they first cousins. Okay. So oil execs bagged a record profits. People forget that. Yeah, they do. And they bankroll Republicans often. That's true. Because you have different special interest group and lobbyists that get behind Republicans, and that's the reason why they champion the things that they champion. That's very true. And I think we have another super chat. That's off the screen. I think we have another super chat. Keep sending in super chats. We'll read them. I love this one. $5. Early voting, October 17th through 23rd. We love to see it. We love to see it. Hey, listen, let folks know that that's going on. We'll talk about that at the end. And I think we had one more. I think we had 4. So I believe we had one more. It looks like we didn't. I think I read all of them. So I wanted to go to those. Keep sending in super chats because, you know what I'm saying, we love to see it. Support HBCU Pulse. And also, we want to make sure that we spotlight your comment. There's a lot of comments in here. So you want to get your comment read, spotlight it. All right. So I just really think that in general, he didn't answer that. And also, he didn't properly answer, would you support a complete abortion ban? Because he knows that there is a lot of interest around reproductive rights. A lot of people want the right to choose. And one thing that I heard, I don't think Reverend Warnock said it, but I heard someone say it recently that even if you don't support abortion outright, you should support a woman's right to choose because that's her choice.
Right.
Even if you don't support it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, why are you trying to take that choice away from a woman that is bearing the child? That's having the child. We don't like that. I just don't understand how that's not clear and cut. So I want to toss to you, Naya, about this abortion issue. Like, first of all, how do you feel about Hershel Walker's comments about this? And number 2, how do you feel about how the reproductive rights issue is being talked about in the Georgia election?
I just first off like to say I don't, judge anybody. If you're pro-life, you're pro-life. If you're pro-choice, you're pro-choice. You have the right to, feel that way. For him to say taxpayers pay for abortions, that's not true. Most abortion clinics are nonprofits, so that's one.
There's that. There's definitely that. Because I think that a lot of folks conflate these issues and put out what we now call, thanks to Kellyanne Conway when she was on, I think that was Chuck Todd, alternative facts. Mm-hmm. A lot of folks like to conflate these talking points with alternative facts, and sometimes it's just simply not true. So I want to really quickly go to this before we move on. Let me go to this comment because Mr. Jeff, he said this: if you say red or blue, you're missing the point, and voting by color, be colorblind. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Republicans and Democrats have different issues. They have different issues that they target. And then when you're voting for a Republican or Democrat, you're voting for the issues that they're targeting. So I can't be colorblind in the vote because there's not a colorblind party. There's not a gray party. There's not a black party. There's not a white party. It's a red party, a blue party, a Republican party, and a Democratic party that's going to get the majority of the votes and win. So when I look at the Republican ticket and the Democratic ticket, I'm looking at the issues themselves. I'm looking at the issues and I say, hey, well, I see this Democrat right here, Reverend Warnock. He wants to increase funding for HBCUs. He wants to allocate resources to support different community initiatives. He supports reproductive rights. These are things that I align with, so I'm going to support that. Like, you can't be colorblind. I don't understand. I appreciate the super chat, but I don't understand that. Like, I don't think you can be colorblind in voting. But just you have anything to say to that?
I feel like his statement would be more relevant if politics were not the way that they are today. Perhaps if you look at Bill Clinton was like the new Democrat, so to speak. He had very much Republican conservative views, but also liberal views. And a lot of people like Clinton because he was like a fresh face. But politics now are not like that. Republicans are very headstrong about the things that they want to do. And sometimes Democrats can be headstrong about what they want to do. And I feel like that's Washington's biggest fault, is that we can't come together as two. So maybe we could have been colorblind maybe a decade ago, but this is a new age, and we have to vote based on, Democrat Republicans sometimes.
Exactly, because it's just like, who's on the ticket?
Right.
And what are they advocating for? Like, there's not a colorblind ticket. You can't choose, I like this Hershel Walker issue, but I'm gonna choose Raphael Warnock issue. It's not McDonald's. Like, it's not a restaurant. You know what I'm saying? I just thought it doesn't make sense. But I want to spotlight this before we move back into the debate questions. This is Hershel Walker supporter. He's a black man. He stands by Hershel Walker. Some black folks will support racist Jim Crow Joe Biden to the bitter end. And he says black females support Democrats because they put black women over the black men. First of all, because I got time today. Okay, first and foremost, that makes no sense. Black women save us all because black women are a very large voting bloc. It's not the largest voting bloc, because oftentimes black women are very engaged in what's going on. A lot of black men are susceptible to crazy talking points. But in general, like, you talk about Jim Crow Joe Biden, like, can we be real here? I'm gonna take this off the screen. It's making my eyes hurt. Okay, I don't want to see that no more. He didn't even pay for the super chat, but I just wanted to show that. But it's like, Joe Biden's administration, President Biden, has done so much for black people in his administration. And we can talk about HBCU funding, but look at what happened with the student loan forgiveness. It was 10,000. He said he would not go over 10,000. Then he came out and said 20,000 to Pell Grant recipients. Who are the students? What race of students has the most Pell Grants? Black folks, Black students. Yeah, and you're a Pell Grant recipient. So it's like, that is specifically for black people. Yes. What are y'all talking about? Like man, like someone said that the pandemic was the worst group project that they've ever had. No, voting is, because like, y'all playing with my life, bro. Y'all playing with my life, my family life.
And that's the thing. Like, people aren't educated. They're just going off of things. They're not reading up on, these issues. They're just saying things that are not true. Mm-hmm. And that's
not true at all. Not true at all. And it's so confounding. So it's 10 p.m. right now. So we're going to be on for a little bit longer because we have a couple more questions that we want to tackle. But if you're just now tuning in, this is HBCU Pulse. We're decided to do a live on Twitter, on YouTube, and also on the HBCU League Pass Plus app. We're on channel 201 currently. Make sure to download that app. They're doing amazing things, and that's home team. So we support them. And the thing that we're doing here is that we want to really give young folks a voice in the political process, because oftentimes when it comes to political discussions, it's a lot of old folks talking. It's a lot of old folks talking that are set in their ways. But oftentimes you have a lot of young people that go out and they determine the vote. And we're going to be the leaders of the future. A lot of us are. So we wanted to open up this discussion because our voice matters and our point of view matters. So we have Naya Warfield. She's NAACP president at Fort Valley, my alma mater. And we have Genesis Ivy. She's a part of student government at Fort Valley. She's the legislative secretary in the Senate. You see how that works so well? In the Senate at Fort Valley, making decisions, majority vote, motions and all of that. So she knows about the Senate. She knows what's going on, all right? So we got the perfect people in here. And if you have a comment, I want you all to definitely buy a super chat, because that would be very generous, and we will show your comment, no matter how ridiculous it is on the screen. Now, sometimes we won't, because some of that stuff is like that. But if it's a comment that we can show, we'll show it, and we'll try our best to address it. And maybe if we're confounded by it, maybe it'll be entertaining. We'll give y'all good meme material, because some of that stuff will be like, what? But also, you can also cash up us at HBCU Pulse. You know what I'm saying? If y'all want to show us some love. And also, you can send us a donation on PayPal. You know what I'm saying? You want us to keep doing this. You want us to keep growing, because we want to do this. And we want to keep doing this. So make sure y'all like the video. I see 126 likes. Give me the 200, man. Come on. It was almost 1,000 folks in here. Give me the 200, man. It's at 300. Like the video. Share the video. This is good stuff that's going on. And also subscribe. But let's get back into the debate. So they asked this question to Reverend Warnock. Do you believe that there should be any limitations set on abortion by the government? And I think he answered it pretty well. You had Hershel Walker that tried to do his tit for tat and the whole entire thing. And then they played a video, and I see it's another super chat, but they played a video from a rally that he did, which this caught me by surprise. And y'all know I texted in the group chat, and I was like, I said, no caps, they got videos. I'm like, what? And someone help me out, because I might be wrong, but I have never seen anyone that has had a video dropped on them in a debate. I've seen a lot of debates. I've never seen that. They did a Hershel Walker video, but they did 4 different instances or 3 different instances where they had something specifically for Raphael Warnock that I don't think he was fully prepared for. Right. And it's like, I understand different questions, but it's like videos. You have a video of his rally. It's not like he said anything crazy. He said essentially that even God gave us a choice. Right. And I don't know if we have Christians here, might be Christians, might be atheists, might be agnostics, but typically in the Christian faith, what is always talked about is that God gave us free will. And they talked about Adam and Eve. God gave Adam and Eve free will, and they made their choice, and they live with the consequences. And that's a lot of what adult life is. When you make a choice, you have to live with the consequences. And I like to say you have positive or negative consequences. You do something good, you'll get a positive consequence. We went live on YouTube. We got 330 people watching. Positive consequence. But hey, let's say, hey, I didn't do it. Negative consequence. You know what I'm saying? I ain't doing it. That's how life works. You know, so you have free choice and freedom to do what you want to do. But what Republicans are doing is restricting God-given freedom. But you say you're Christians. And you talk about, I talk to my pastors about different stuff. First and foremost, so you're talking to a pastor. All right, you talk to a pastor of Dr. King's church. And he's over there, I'm telling you what I was. Reverend Warnock was about to pull out his Bible. He had under the podium. He had pull out his Bible. I could have sworn you almost said, "Sir, are you trying to debate scripture with me?" I've heard pastors say that before. Are you trying to debate scriptures with me? I could have sworn he was going to say that, because he tried to get all religious, and it's like, dude, you're talking to a pastor, and it just simply did not make sense. And for News Nation and Nexstar to bring that clip up, what was he going to do? Run from it? Well, what I really meant to say, no, he meant it. That we have God-given choices. That's what I just simply did not understand. And even if it's like, oh, it's an atheist that doesn't believe in God, or an agnostic that doesn't believe that there is a superior, that there might be a superior power, but there's not a God. Okay, that's perfectly fine, because we respect everyone's belief. But at the same time, Christianity is a widely held belief by Americans. So all Raphael Warnock was saying, as a Christian, as a Christian pastor, he's saying that God gave the choice to us. So why are the Republicans taking away that choice? So I think we have to look at it from that lens. So I want to toss it to you, Genesis. Like, first and foremost, do you think that this was a fair question? Do you think it was fair to play that video? And how do you think Reverend Warnock answered this question?
So I just want to start by saying that I am a strong believer in the separation of church and state. Yes. I don't think that, I understand that Mr. Warnock, Reverend Warnock, is a pastor. And that's his way of connecting with the people of Georgia. Do that through faith. But it gets misconstrued sometimes when the abortion take is added into it. I don't think it was a fair question, because obviously we know that Reverend Warnock is not a malicious person or a hellish human being. So he would have never said God gave us a choice in the way that God gave us a choice to kill a baby. But of course, that's what they're always going to perceive this as. I don't think it was fair to him, but alas, they did it. And I don't think he was prepared for them to play that clip. A lot of the things that happened throughout that debate was what you said earlier. It was an ambush. I don't know. I don't necessarily know if he answered it to the best of his ability. I mean, I think he did. I think he did.
I think he did. He just wasn't prepared for it, because you can't prepare for something like that. You could do all the debate prep in the world, but if you have a video that's being played that they're trying to create a narrative around, and you have like 15 to 60 seconds to respond, like, you know, you want to make sure you adequately respond to it. And typically what you hear is and like, you hear that come out because when you have prepared statements, even for great speakers, you hear it on the radio. If you say and like, you're trying to think of what to say, because those are filler words. And I heard a lot of that, and I was like, uh-oh. I was like, Reverend Warnock, please, because they're going to run with this. on Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show. They're gonna run with it on conservative radio. They're gonna run with it on Fox News, please. And I think he answered it well enough, but I think that was the wrong question to ask. And I want to say once again, if you all didn't hear what I said, that listen, I think that this is the reason why Hershel Walker decided to do this debate, because he knew who it was with and he knew he wasn't going to get pressed for real. But we have another super chat here that I don't really understand, but we're going to show it. Don't allow Kaser to fool us by platforming fools to continue to have us go against our best interests. Mr. Vince, thank you for the $5, but sir, what are you talking about? Okay. Sometimes it's like, I really want folks to say, bro, what are you talking about, bro? Like, what are you talking about? Like, and not talking about, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know who's Kaser. Send us another $5. Let us know who Kaser is, okay? And I'll read it on screen. All right, send us another $5, man. Listen, we'll talk about Kaser. We're gonna stop deplatforming folks, Kaser. All right, but I don't know what that is. All right, so moving on. So they moved on to this question here to both of the candidates. In the United States Senate, will you support further forgiveness of student loan debt? And if so, how will you implement it on a federal level? And that was from a UGA student. I think that was also sort of odd, because typically if that happens, you have like multiple questions by different folks around Georgia. You see that in town halls, you see that in debates. And I want to just say this, and not to be mean to that young man. We're all in the university system of Georgia, but I don't trust no one with that haircut. He had a really weird haircut. I was like, I don't trust no one with the haircut. I don't trust his best interest at that point. It was okay question. I'm just saying he might be a good guy, but that haircut was something else, man. I'm just gonna say I didn't trust the haircut. But Genesis, what did you think? I really didn't. I really did not. I didn't get a chance to get a haircut, but it don't look like that. All right, I'm just saying. It was hair on this side, hair on that side. It was just like it was a part right there. I was like, interesting. Okay, so let's talk about that question that he asked though, because I do think it was a pretty good question. It was just odd that it was just only him that had that video, that had that screen time, because it wasn't an audience. They decided not to have an audience. Although you heard people clapping and laughing. That was Raphael Warnock's team and maybe his family, Hershel Walker's team and family. So they were the ones clapping and laughing in the background. That was them. So there was not any audience except for the teams and their families or what have you, because they didn't want to have an audience. So I just was confounded by the fact it was only one video and one student. But what do you all think about it? So I liked Raphael Warnock's answer. Hershel Walker had another non-answer. Right. I mean, I think, didn't he go to UGA for free? I mean, so I don't think he really cares about student loans, because he was good at football. He was a Heisman winner. You know, he gave UGA, a state championship and that national championship. So I was like, I don't think he paid for school. Raphael Warnock, he went to Morehouse, so he had to pay. That's a lot. Okay. So Genesis, how do you feel about, Reverend Warnock's answer to that question? Because I think he did pretty well.
He gave examples and receipts. He told us that he supported President Biden and pushed him to forgive student loans, first the $10,000 and then the $20,000. So he gave actual substance and actual answers and a plan. Our counterpart, Mr. Walker, didn't give an answer at all, as we just stated. And I feel like Mr. Walker can't relate, because he went to UGA on a football scholarship. And in order to lead people, you have to lead people in a way that they can empathize with you, sympathize with you, and relate with you. Reverend Warnock is around African-American students in his community, and we have student loans. But even Republicans, like everybody in Georgia that goes to college mostly has student loan debt. So that's Republicans or Democrats. But I feel as though Republicans aren't going to be able to look past those things. It's like, okay, President Biden is trying to forgive student loan debts, but I guess it's just not enough.
Exactly. And I want to show this. So he meant conservative. So he was typing on the phone. It was just a typo. He couldn't edit it. So he was talking about conservative. So I agree. Okay. Because I was like, who is that? But I agree, Mr. Vince. Thank you for the generous super chat, $7. All right. So let's move on. Wes, I want to move to you and I. So how do you feel that question was answered? Because we're not going to talk about Hershel Walker's answer, because he didn't give an answer. But how do you feel that Reverend Warnock answered that question about student loan forgiveness?
I think he answered it well, especially him coming from HBCU background. He recognizes how important it is, for us students. We're paying as Black students at that. Some of us don't have it. So for us to forgive student loans, I think that's huge. And for him to tackle that and help give back to us, it's just good.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And, like for me, so I think we're up to the point. So I'm going to flip. So they didn't ask this in this order, but was it the question about gun violence, the one where he pulled out that party store badge? Was that the one?
Yes.
The one about gun violence?
Yes, that's when it all started, because Warnock instigated. After his statement, he said something about him being a cop. He said, pretend to be a cop, and then he threatened cops and something like that. And that's when he pulled out the badge, and that whole thing went down.
No props.
Because I think I looked away, because I actually didn't see the badge. I think I looked away. I'll tell you what I did. When Raphael Warnock said the thing about him pretending to be a cop, I jumped up and said, "Oh!" I jumped up, and then I got on my phone and tweeted something. And I think I missed the badge part. And then all I heard was like, "Mr. Walker, you know the rules. You know the rules." That's all I heard. And it's always like, "Oh, what do you do?" You know what I'm saying? Like, because sometimes I honestly thought that, because I'm telling you, I think the guy from UGA, his name was Christian. I thought when he heard Christian, I thought he was gonna snap, because I think that's the name of his son. I think he was like, Christian. I thought he was gonna be like, Christian. Like, where's Christian at? I thought he's gonna snap. So I was like, because some of the points, I was like, we're gonna see a fight on the U.S. Senate the stage. Like, what the world? So, like, honestly, like, I think that shows you everything you need to know. There's an image that's going around, and I really wish I could show it, but I don't have it up right now. But there's an image that's going around of him holding that badge, looking real crazy. And that should be the image that defines this campaign. Back in 2004, you had a Democratic candidate. His name was Howard Dean, and he was sort of the precursor for Bernie Sanders. He was running for the president's seat as a Democrat, and he did this scream, and they called it the Dean scream, and it was widely mocked and ridiculed, and it was sort of that first video that was a part of viral culture, and I really wish I could play it. And that one video of him doing that Dean scream, Dave Chappelle did a skit on it in his season 3 when he left the Chappelle show. They showed it. He did a skit on it. A lot of comedians talked about it. And that one thing got Howard Dean out of the race where he could not have done anything. You know what I'm saying? That Dean scream messed him up because they felt that wasn't presidential. They felt as if that wasn't becoming of someone that wants to run for president. I think if Howard Dean ran, I think him being a meme would have helped him, become maybe the nominee because of how this culture is. But I want to just say we live in two different cultures. That was 2004. That's this 18 years later. And you see this man like have that badge. First of all, what that badge supposed to be? What's that badge supposed to mean, sir? Like, why did you pull that out? Like, it didn't make sense. And then him pulling out the badge was, I guess, his answer to the question. Like, it's such a joke.
I wanted him to go in depth more about when he said Warnock empowered criminals to go against the police. Like, who exactly are criminals to you? Like, I wanted him to go more in depth to that. Like, what is your definition of criminals? Like, who are you talking about when he said that?
To be honest, like what I think he's talking about, he's trying to call back to the ad that they've been saying where they're like, oh, Raphael Warnock voted for this money to go to the Boston bomber. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, it's just these different commercials and different talking points that they have. So they're trying to group in Reverend Warnock with criminals. Because Reverend Warnock, I mean, let's be real. Take the politics aside. And some I beg somebody to disagree with me. Reverend Warnock's a good dude. I mean, I have not had the pleasure of meeting him yet. Hopefully I do get the chance to. Maybe one day he'll do an interview, on HBCU Pulse when he wins. Maybe he'll do an interview. But like, he seems like a really good guy. And, I've seen his sermons. I've heard him speak. I saw his commencement speech. I believe he spoke at Savannah State. I think that was 2020 or 2021. He just seems like a good guy that comes from, a rough environment where his parents had to make ends meet. All these different things. He went to Morehouse. It was his dream school. He wanted to sort of be like Dr. King, and he did that. I mean, like, it's hard to define a candidate like that strategically. it's hard to make him look crazy. It's hard to make him look like he's not fit. So what you do is you try to group him in with people that voters feel as if are wrong, that are criminal, that hurt you. That's what they're trying to do. And I think that it was totally ineffective the way he did. I want to bring this up too, because Raphael Warnock, he had a lot of good one-liners. And I forgot to mention this. If I ended this live and I didn't say this, I would have been so upset. He said this, and I was so happy. I couldn't tweet it because I was trying to tweet and watch. I was trying to watch this shot, heard everything. He said that basically Hershel Walker wants politicians to have the power and not God. Hershel Walker had nothing to say. He didn't say a word, and they moved on to the next thing. I'm like, oh, that was a good punch. I was like, oh, I ran around the room. I was like, oh, he did. That was a bar. I was like, that was a bar. See, you going up against a pastor, man. Like you can't do that against a pastor. But I think that question with gun violence, it wasn't answered at all by Walker. And the first thing he said was he's going to support the Second Amendment. Sir, we're not talking about the Second Amendment. Right. We're talking about what the Second Amendment has done to children in high school. We're talking about what the Second Amendment has done to those black folks up there in New York. We're talking about what the Second Amendment has done to countless people around America. That's what we're talking about. And it's so funny. I want to say this. It's so funny that you see often that Republicans bring up Chicago, and they bring up this conflated notion about what about black on black crime when we know crime is based on proximity. We know that for a fact. So you have white on white crime. Yeah, black on black crime is based on proximity because typically, you know, the guys that want to rob somebody, they're not going to go all the way to the rich side of town to rob somebody. If they do, they too dedicated. Get them off the street at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like they're going to go to where they're at. They're going to go to where they are. So you talk about gun violence, you talk about old Chicago this, Chicago that, but you're supporting the Second Amendment right. And then on top of that, you're saying that, hey, no background checks, let anybody get a gun. But you try to vilify Chicago. And they say, oh, it's so many shootings. It doesn't, y'all are hypocritical. It doesn't make sense at all. And that's all I heard in Hershel Walker's things. Like, I support the Second Amendment right, but there's the things we gonna do. What we gonna do? Because Raphael Warnock has a plan. And he talked about it. So that's how I felt about it. So Anaya, really quickly, how did you feel about the answer? Outside of the badge, because the badge is what takes up the auction. That was a funny moment. How do you feel about Walker's answer? Because that was a distraction. How do you feel about his answer?
It wasn't an answer. And then he tried to tie in the drug thing about how 70% of the drugs from the border are just coming to us or whatnot. How does that play into, you know, guns and gun control? Like it just like his answers was not, the questions were not answered at all. And he tried to bring in different points that didn't have anything to do with the question.
At all. So I want to ask you, Genesis, so really quickly, how did you feel about Walker's answer? Because like I want to say this again, I believe that often we are so into meme culture and so into finding a joke, which the badge thing was funny and we talked about it. But that man said something that didn't make no sense to me. Right. So how do you feel about what he said?
He's so wrapped up in like pleasing the white people and conservatives that the only thing he said was he would never take away our Second Amendment. Then that has no depth to it. It's just the surface of it. What does that mean? Why are we not doing these things? He just is trying to appeal to these people, or he's just repeating what people have told him. This entire debate is just vague answers that we would expect a regular conservative candidate to say. There's no personality. There's no opinion. Everything is just basic.
So I totally agree. And it's just, I have so much more to say on that, but we're running out of time because it is a Friday and y'all are student leaders. So y'all work hard. Y'all work real hard getting folks to vote. And then homecoming was a couple weeks ago. So listen, we're gonna get out here in a second, but I want to spotlight some of these comments. So this right here, I thought was a really good comment. Hershel Walker did not graduate from UGA. I did look him up. It was one of many of Hershel's lies. Yeah, I don't think it is because he went for the draft. He got drafted to the USFL, which I think Trump had a stake in at that time. Then he went to the Cowboys. Y'all don't know this because I didn't know this. So I'm reading a book. I'm reading a book about the Dallas Cowboys and the dynasty. Because, you know, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, he's at Jackson State. So they had that dynasty. You had Troy Aikman. You had Emmitt Smith. You had Michael Irvin, who's on First Take. He be sweating talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Y'all seen him before. And then you had all these other great players. They had a dynasty. They won Super Bowls in the 90s. So Herschel Walker, I didn't know this. He actually played on the Cowboys. All right. He was a good running back at Georgia, played for USFL, played for the Cowboys. Tell me why they got him up out of there to get the good players. Like, tell me why. They got him up out of there to get Emmitt Smith. They got him up out of there to get players that can win a championship. So if Herschel Walker can't win a Super Bowl, he can't win an election, he can't do what's needed for Georgia. Tell him I said that, okay? So I love that. I love that a lot. So Dean Scream, Tara G remembers it. Yeah, like it was a big thing. And it was a lot of talk about it in 2016 about how Howard Dean would have been a good candidate in 2016 because meme culture propels you. Meme culture propels you now. If you're getting talked about on Stephen Colbert, you're getting talked about on these different comedy shows, that actually helps you. And then most likely, if you have a good PR, that turns into a late show appearance where you're doing the screen. You know what I'm saying? Now that goes viral, and now you have younger people that know about you, so they support you. So Howard Dean was the precursor to Bernie Sanders, and a lot of folks don't realize that. So we have another super chat. That wasn't a super chat, but I like that one. So they said this here. They conflate being a pastor with their twisted white evangelical preacher. They think they're indicting Raphael Warnock's faith. Exactly. And I'll tell you what I think. And I'm going to say this, and we're going to move on. I think Black Christianity and white evangelical Christianity are two different things. And we'll leave it there. Y'all don't got to respond to that. I think it's two different things, and we'll leave it there. Okay, so let's talk about the whole entire thing in the church. They brought this up, so we're going to run through these quickly. So they asked Reverend Warnock to address lawsuits saying that residents were evicted from Ebenezer Baptist Church owned apartment complex. And I could tell he was getting mad. This was one where I felt as if he played into the trap a little bit because he was getting upset. And I sort of wish that he answered that a little bit more clearly. Where he said, I wish he would have said, that's a lie. That's all I'm saying. Right. That is a lie. It's made up. Next question. And because he already was mad. Now, you could tell he was sort of, you know, he was trying to choose his words carefully because that's such a damning accusation to say that you're evicting folks that go to your church and it's a lawsuit. And first of all, every lawsuit ain't true. First and foremost, I want to say every lawsuit isn't true. Every lawsuit doesn't have merit at all. So that's the first thing. Just because it's a lawsuit doesn't mean it's a real thing. So Genesis, I want to toss to you really quickly. How did you feel about that? And I'm asking how you feel because it's like, I know that I felt like that was a setup question to get him to stumble. And I don't think he did, but I didn't think he answered it as appropriately as he could have. So how do you think he answered it? And do you think that was a fair question to bring up?
And of course, it wasn't a fair question, but I do respect him for his answer. I feel that he stood his ground as best as he could. Not everything you see in the media is going to be true. And for them to throw that question at him, but we see Mr. Walker here with all of his different allegations. Like he tried to he pulled a weapon out on his ex-wife, like, and threatened to kill her, but blamed mental health. He doesn't even say mental illness. He just says, I had mental health. Like, what does that mean? So I feel as though that was an unfair statement or an unfair question for them to give Mr. Warnock, but he answered it as best as he could. And that's all that matters. We know that he's a God-fearing man. He's a pastor. He's a great person. So they try to misconstrue him and they try to make him out to be such a villain when he's just an honest, working person that is an advocate for the African-American people.
Exactly. I want to bring this up because I think Lulu talking to me. Lulu got spoke with me. He said, wow, dude, you're a racist. How am I a racist? How am I a racist by saying that Black Christianity and white evangelical Christianity are two different things? When you realize, when you look at the Bible, it condones slavery. We want to talk about that? We want to talk about how it's in the Bible that talks about slavery, where honor your masters. We want to talk about that because I think that scripture reads a bit differently to Black people. So I think it's two different connotations when it comes to Christianity and faith. But I'm just saying, it's two interpretations, two different connotations. I'm telling you. So keep going. Buy a super chat, Lou. I wish you could call in. I wish you could, but you can't. Too bad. Oh. Okay, so let's move on. So he was also asked, Reverend Warnock was asked where the money was coming from in regards to expanding access coverage to the Affordable Care Act. The framing of that question was really off to me. So I want to toss you and I, because I didn't give you a chance to answer that last question because we're trying to sort of speed it along. So how do you feel about the framing of that question and how Reverend Warnock answered that question?
You broke up. What did you say? I couldn't hear anything.
I'll ask it again. So the question that was asked to Reverend Warnock, he was asked where is the money coming from in regards to expanding access coverage to the Affordable Care Act. I think that was a loaded question, but I think he answered it pretty well. It was such a loaded question. How do you think he answered that question? And do you think that question should have been asked in that way?
I think the question probably could have been phrased differently or segued into a different question. But I think Warnock answered all his questions well. That question particularly, I don't typically remember that one. I think I did a little bit because I wrote it down when he talked about the legislations he's passed dealing with that and everything.
Mm-hmm. And I want to spotlight this too really quickly because we're gonna get to it. He said blacks were selling slaves in Africa, sir. You don't want me to get started on that.
Please don't.
You don't want me to get started on that, sir. Lou, I see what you're doing here. You want to get us started. You're diverting the conversation, Lou. Lou, come on, man. Are you for real? You really gonna black on black crime slavery? Like, are you like what about black on black crime? Are you really gonna do that, Lou? Lou, don't do that, Lou. Don't do that, Lou. And this is a great super chat. Lou's the clown. End of message. Thank you, Vince. That's a great super chat. I love it. That's my favorite super chat of the night. Lou, listen. Halloween is on the 31st, Lou. Take the clown outfit off. Anyway, okay? Anyway, so we're gonna move on. So this was asked to Hershel Walker. What measures that Congress enact? I think I wrote that wrong. What measures should Congress enact to ensure that citizens can have access to health care, hospitals, and doctors? He did not have an answer. How can you be a senator and you can't answer a basic question about policy? Mm-hmm. Someone since according to Lou, I'm the racist black man. Let's talk about policy. This one got nothing to do with race. Tell me how you can answer this question and it don't deal with no level of policy, but you have Raphael Warnock that has specific policy talking points about expanding affordable access to healthcare. And the American Rescue Plan Senator Warnock secured $1.3 million in federal funds for 2 healthcare centers. And guess where, y'all? Macon-Bibb County. We're in Middle Georgia. Fort Valley's in Middle Georgia. He got healthcare from Macon-Bibb County, and then he's leading the effort in the Senate to pass a federal Medicare-like program to cover the 642,000 Georgians who would gain health coverage. That ain't race. That's about healthcare. That affects everyone. So
for $4 billion.
Exactly. So tell me why he couldn't answer that question, Lou. Please comment. But I want to toss to you, Genesis. So how do you think Hershel Walker answered this question? Do you think he answered the question well?
No. But I don't think he answered any question well. And when questions like that throughout the evening that were posed, and then I listened to his his answers, it just made me think, like, I have been doing research on Mr. Walker just out of curiosity, but what are his policies and what are his plans? Like, does he actually have plans for healthcare? He said that, and correct me if I'm wrong, he said that, yes, an able-bodied working person has health care afforded to them. And to me, that was a jab at perhaps minorities or African Americans that may be on Medicare or Medicaid. Not everybody is able-bodied, for one. We have disability and people with that can't work. And then we have people that, like Reverend Warnock gave the example of the lady that was working in the healthcare field for years. Then she got really sick and then she couldn't work anymore and then have healthcare because of the Medicaid gap. So how can you sit here and say those things about people that aren't able to work? It's you're not being an advocate for the people. Not everybody, right? No, go ahead.
And then he said he'll cap insulin costs because people should eat right. That should have been another thing there when we talk about, the healthcare, like that. When he said, because I wrote it down because it it just bugged me. He said the price of insulin doesn't matter because gas is high, so insulin is high. What are you talking about? Like you said, Rainbow, what are you talking about?
Man, no. What are you talking about? What you talking about? You can't say talking. What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like you got to be Southern with it. Hey, real quick. So I take this as a compliment for all of us. This guy says this guy sounds like the Tom Joyner show. The ladies have more intelligence than this guy. First of all, we have some very intelligent Fort Valley State University women that are on this live with me. They are so articulate and they're so intelligent and they're so politically aware. But I'm gonna tell you what you did, sir. Tom Joyner is my role model.
I love Tom Joyner.
Do you realize I would not be here if it was not for Tom Joyner? So that literally, I'm not even kidding. Thank you, Dante. Like I know you're calling me stupid. I know I'm not stupid, but you compare it to the Tom Joyner Morning Show. Boy, if it was copyright, I would play two things. I'll play Tom Joyner theme song and I'll play Moneybag Time today. Because y'all see, I got time today. You know what I'm saying? I'm crossing the line today. Like, come on, but thank you, Dante. That means a lot to me. Because I try to be like Tom Joyner. But I would tell you what I was told. I was told this, and I thought this was good. And we're gonna segue to this. I was told, like don't be like Tom Joyner, be like Johnson C. Johnson, who owned Ebony, who owned Jet. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be an owner. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna be Tom Joyner and Johnson C. Johnson. That's what we're gonna do. Black History in October. Okay. Right. So let's talk about this. So let's talk about this last question here. So I want to talk about two questions that I thought were just really weird towards the end of the debate, because we're not going to talk about the Atlanta Braves one. That was stupid. So they asked both of them, if nuclear weapons are used by Russia, how should the U.S. respond? And I want to say this because I want to, really give my premise to this, because I understand that senators have a national platform, and oftentimes senators have voices on foreign affairs, and also some senators. I'm not saying Raphael Warnock does, but some senators do want to run for president. So I do understand how this can be a relevant question for a senator who will have a voice on that. I do understand that. The only thing is that I don't believe that is a Georgia issue. I understand there's a level of nationality that comes into these discussions, but I don't believe that is an issue that affects Georgians. So I don't think that question should have been asked. And like I said at the top, what was he supposed to say? What was Raphael Warnock supposed to say? And to be honest, what was Hershel Walker supposed to say? Let them bomb us? What was he supposed to say? Like I'm just confused to why the question even was asked. So really quickly, Genesis, do you believe that was a fair question for this debate?
No, definitely not. What is anyone supposed to say? They're going to use nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons could honestly cause the end of the world, if we want to be honest. It's not really up to Warnock to decide on whether or not I don't know. I don't think that was a fair question to ask to either candidates, honestly. I feel that he spoke truth when he said that we have to stand up to Russian forces, because we do. Now, the way that President Biden is deciding to do that's up to his discretion. Exactly. He spoke to the people of Georgia, and he said that several times. I'm focused on the people of Georgia and their protection.
Exactly. So I want to ask you and I just really quickly, how do you feel about that question about if nuclear weapons are used by Russia, how should the U.S. respond? Because I just don't believe that was a fair question, although I do understand how senators can sort of have that thought process, have that question, sort of deal with that issue on Capitol Hill. I do understand that, but I just think that there's more important issues for Georgians, and maybe even more issues could have been talked about, like healthcare, like the economy, like inflation. I think that maybe those issues could have gotten more time versus bringing up this one and the one about the Braves and the one we're going to talk about to end off our discussion about the questions. What do you think about it tonight?
Like you said, it wasn't like a bad question, but it wasn't the right question for that moment. That was more so of a question for a presidential debate. Presidential candidates probably could have answered that question better than the senators could. And it just didn't tie into what the debate was for, and it's for Georgia.
It's like they want to make President Biden look bad, and since Senator Warnock supports President Biden, they're giving these segue questions that will lead into the disapproval of President Biden. So if he were to have supported that, then it would look like, oh, well, you support President.
It felt like a Biden attack. It started like that. It started, their entrance started like that. Walker's entrance started like that. It just seemed like a Biden Trump trying to agenda,
Right, exactly.
Like a Georgia Senate race debate.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it felt like a presidential debate, and I think one of you all said it in the chat. That's what it felt like. And I want to say this: Lulu's still here. So Lulu is still. I don't know if y'all watch Power Book 3: Raising Canaan. Like Joey Badass is in that show. Joey Badass, he's a great actor. And he calls Lou in the show Lulu. He says, "Oh, Lulu." Like, so that's what it reminds me. It reminds me of Power. He said this, and like, I don't agree with you always blaming Democrats, but I do understand what you're saying in the second point. That is a talking point. That is a topic that as a senator you'd have to deal with. So Lulu, I see what you're saying. Now I don't get the first part, but the second part, I do get it. But I just personally think that there are issues within an hour, because this is at the end of the debate. I think there are issues within an hour, plus they have to give their closing remarks. I believe there are issues within an hour that could have been touched on instead of this specific issue. But fairly noted. All right. So we have this comment from Mr. Jeff Mullins. Insulin-dependent people are born with the issue. Type 2 is about diet. Hershel was all wrong about curling it or curtailing it with diet. I totally agree, because sometimes you're born with it, and sometimes some families have a history of it. And sometimes for certain people, there is a preponderance for a person that's in a family that has diabetes as a trait for their family of them getting it. And it's not about, like they eat wrong, all these different things. It's within the genetics. So I totally agree with that. Like that's something that I totally agree with, and that's very much so noted. So the last thing I want us to talk about before we wrap up the show is they asked both Hershel Walker and Raphael Warnock about President Biden and Donald Trump. And they asked Reverend Warnock about him supporting President Biden if he ran in 2024. And that's been a big talking point since the 60 Minutes interview a couple Sundays ago. And just in general, when it's like, dude, like they were asking him that last year. It was 2021. That was his first year in office. Like, why are y'all asking? That's midterms, man. That's number one. Like, we'll deal with that when we do it. We'll deal with that by 2023. You know what I'm saying? We'll deal with that. But it's like, dude, like, I just don't understand why that's always asked. And I think that this was one of the best answers by Reverend Warnock, because it was such a real answer. It was like, dude, why are you asking me this? Like, bro, that's honestly what it felt like. Like, dog, why? Like, that's honestly what it felt like. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I like this answer. I want to start with you, Genesis, really quickly. How did you feel about his answer to this question?
I thought it was a great answer. Reverend Warnock he's authentic and he's true. He's real. He's like a fresh face for Georgia politics, in my opinion. He was true. He basically said, why are you all asking me this? I'm here for the people of Georgia. What a man decides he wants to do with his life is up to his business. And that's exactly what he said. So I think he answered it beautifully. Couldn't have been more proud of him to end that.
Right. So, Anaya, how do you think?
Same as Genesis. Like, why are we focused on a presidential election that's not near yet? Mm-hmm. We're focused on the Senate race. Like, that's what he said. Like, let's focus on this right now. Like, why are we talking about a presidential election? We're trying to get through the Senate election right now.
Right. Exactly. So I want to slide this in really quickly before we talk about Hershel Walker and his comment about Donald Trump. Vince B, shout out to my guy. Did y'all peep Walker trying to fat shame people for needing insulin? Like, y'all feel like he was sort of fat shaming a little bit?
Yes, definitely.
He said people need to eat right.
I just like that man is so confounding, because it's like, this is what people want on Capitol Hill. I sort of think that this race can go one or two ways. It can go 2016 or 2008, and I'll explain what I mean by that. In 2008, John McCain, and rest in peace to him, John McCain was pretty capable politician, pretty capable. You know, he had different things. He had a level of honor about him that could have gotten people to vote, especially if they didn't want Barack Obama in. It wasn't as politicized as it is now. And Barack Obama was a historic candidate. He was the one black man that checked all the boxes. He wasn't threatening. You couldn't put him in that Jesse Jackson type of box. And we knew that, hey, like, this is the guy that go in the White House. Then he had a black wife and a black family. So that was something where it's like black folks can really get behind this black man, right? Instead of John McCain getting someone as the vice president that was competent, that was young, to answer the same questions that Joe Biden was getting on the campaign trail and is getting now as the president, could have picked someone young that was competent, a young up-and-coming Republican politician that just in case it was a health emergency, you had this young guy that you're voting for that's the next person in the party. He picked Sarah Palin. But Sarah Palin ain't smart. I'm sorry. Sarah Palin ain't smart at all. And she was saying a lot of crazy stuff. And I think that John McCain regretted it. I think he even admitted sort of regretting it, like, you know, but before he passed on. It was just bad because it's like this woman ain't competent. Yeah, she was governor of Alaska, but even on Fox News, they were like, bro, what you talking about? What are you talking about, Miss Palin? Like even on Fox News, they were saying that. You know what I'm saying? They were like, what does that mean? You know, so because of that, I think that brought even more people to vote for President Obama because he was competent. You had Joe Biden in that seat that was also competent. He was your older typical politician. So it's like it worked on that ticket. But it also could be 2016. Well, you have Clinton. Secretary Clinton was capable. She was the most qualified person to ever run for president. But because people personally did not like her and they believed fake news and Russian propaganda, they decided to vote for Trump. Or some folks decided, in the black community especially, not to vote at all. And that then led to Donald Trump being our president. And some folks are cheering in the chat. Some folks are like, man, that's true. I think it go either way. Because I think that Herschel Walker is just as dumb as Sarah Palin. Let's be real. Just as dumb as Sarah Palin. They both ain't that bright. But also, he's Herschel Walker. He led Georgia to a national championship. And Georgia just won their latest national championship this year. So I think, and also he's black as well, so we can't say, oh, well, we want to vote for the black person. Now it's two black people. And some folks that aren't as aware about what's going on, and they're not getting the information everyone else is getting. You know, it's not an insult to anyone, but sometimes some people have more access to information because of the internet, because they're in places such as college campuses where they're challenged. Like, some folks don't have access to that information and they're in their bubble. So they might see Herschel Walker led Georgia to a national championship, and they think that's a prerequisite for him being the senator, and they vote for him. I honestly think it can go two ways. And that's the thing that scares me. And that's what I thought about when it came to the question about them talking about Biden and Trump. Then the last thing we'll talk about is that you had them talk about how Trump was his friend. This is Walker. Talk about Trump was his friend and he sticks by his allies, unlike the Democrats. And in my mind, I'm like, what allies are you talking about? What allies did they not stand by? And he said something about foreign allies. I'm like, that didn't land the way I thought he would. So last question about the debate questions. What do you feel about Walker's, final answer to that point about supporting Donald Trump? Like, do you think it made any type of sense? And I'm gonna ask Genesis. I'm gonna ask Genesis too. Do you think that made any type of sense, Genesis?
I feel like him to have said, like, that's my friend, it's just like speaking, like, it speaks volumes. Like, you have these people that are putting bugs in your ear into what to say, and they're probably paying him to say these things. He's just the ideal candidate, a black man that is running in for a Republican seat that was a football player for Georgia. Trump is his friend, so to speak. But Trump has shown us several times that, like, he doesn't care about anyone but himself. He threw Governor Kemp under the bus after they turned Georgia blue. And I'm pretty sure that if Walker gives him an opportunity, if he doesn't win this and things go left, like, are they really going to still be friends? Because I think Trump is depending on Walker for him to get into this position, so that if Trump, is able to run for president, then he'll need, that seat, that Georgia seat.
Yeah, I agree. So, Anaya, so what do you think about it? Really quickly? So, like, what do you think about just him saying, hey, Trump is his friend, he supports his allies, and Democrats don't support their allies, and we don't really know what that meant? Like, what do you think about his answer?
it just showed the agenda they have. Like if it wasn't clear to me or clear to anybody else, it's an agenda. It's a hidden agenda. You can see, who's behind helping him, do all this stuff and saying all these things. It's an agenda.
Exactly.
Agenda.
Exactly. So I want to get some more chats in. So Dante is loving y'all. He said, ladies, y'all made a good conversation. That guy is gone. I guess I am. I'm so gone. I am so gone. Oh my! But they love you though. Listen. I want the smoke. Like we want the smoke. Come for me. But they love y'all. They love y'all, and we love to see it. So Dante, you black? That's a black name. You black, Dante? Like I'm making it about race. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm making it about like that. That's a black name, Dante. So I guess Dante black and he loved the black women. That's great because that's a black name. All right. And then Lulu said, tell the truth. Warnock did not answer the Biden question because Biden is despised. Lulu, I think I'm not gonna. I think that is a fair point, my brother Lulu. I think that's if his brother. That's a fair point. I think that what oftentimes Democrats are put in the position of is they have to answer nonsensical questions. Once again, why is that question relevant in 2022 during a midterm that is about the Senate, the House, and the governorship, the gubernatorial race? Why is that a question that needs to be answered? I understand 2023 is coming up. Primary season will be happening, and 2024 will be here before you know it. Because 2020 was here, and it's 2022, and it's the end of 2022. I understand it, but I just think that is not a question that is important right now. When we're talking to Hershel Walker, we're talking to Hershel Walker and Raphael Warnock, Trump and Biden. I just don't think that those are questions that really truthfully need to be asked because there's so many other issues that could have been addressed, like criminal justice reform. They talked about gun violence. I think criminal justice reform could have been something that was talked about. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many other issues that could have been tackled. They could have went more into education. They could have gone more into COVID and how they thought about that and about those preventative measures. Like there's so many things that's more important than this, honestly. But I don't think that you're necessarily wrong because Joe Biden is despised by a certain sector of the community. And a lot of people feel as if because of the media and because of narratives that he's not doing a good job. I just personally think those narratives are wrong. And I want to say this since we here, listen, I talked about Tom Joyner. I look up to Charlemagne too, y'all. I really do. Charlemagne is such a great talent. He honestly is our generation's great radio guy. But some of the things he says about politics, and namely Joe Biden, is so flagrantly false and so flagrantly misleading. And I think that Killer Mike and Charlemagne and a lot of our black entertainers, I'm gonna call them to the carpet, y'all got to be more politically aware. Y'all don't have to be John Legend. John Legend is a Democrat, clearly. John Legend supports blue, okay? At the same time, it's like y'all don't got to be for one party or for another party, but can y'all really read the room and say the right things because you have a platform? And I want to say that before we segue to the end. So we're not going to talk about the closing remarks because I think that, there's no point of talking about that because they're going to big themselves up anyway. So I want to say in general, I want to circle back to, the original question that we were going to open up the phone lines for, and then we'll go on and close this thing out as it's almost 11 o'clock as we're recording this. So did the Raphael Warnock Hershel Walker debate, I'm going to start with you, Anaya, did it change your mind at all about the race in general?
It didn't change my mind. I mean, I think Warnock has a good chance, a high chance of winning the race. I think he could have been more confident in the debate, a little bit more on certain answers. But other than that, I just feel like this debate just proved like who needs to have that seat for Georgia. And it's obviously not Walker. And I feel like if we have Walker in that seat, we're doomed as Georgia residents. Like it's just not gonna be pretty at all.
He said we're doomed. Like we are. If he wins, man, we are really doomed for real. Genesis, like, do you think this debate, like, did it change your mind anyway about anything. Not, and when I say change your mind, not necessarily, I'm gonna vote for Hershel Walker. Not necessarily like that, because we know you're not. But it's like, did change your mind about maybe Raphael Warnock could have said this better, or maybe he needs to tighten up a little bit. Like, did it change your mind on anything?
I respect him so much for his composure and his poise and elegance throughout this debate. He really stood his ground, which is better than what we can speak highly of him, unlike, the presidential debate that happened like last 2 years ago, which wasn't, the candidates kind of didn't, both of them on both sides, Trump and Biden, kind of acted out. I just say that even though he got unfair questions and he had a foolish opponent, that he really did show professionalism, and maybe not all of his answers were answered as well as they could have been or with like the utmost confidence. But I say that my stance on it will stay the same, and I just commend him for his work.
I love it. I love it. So for me, just to answer that question, it didn't. It just sort of continued my worry, because I just feel as if we're not looking at politics the right way. I just honestly don't. I think that we are so politicized that we choose everything based on what we believe and not what will help. And of course, our beliefs lead what we believe will help and who we think is the right person. But I think we choose based on if we like Joe Biden or not. We choose to vote based on, or we feel as if we're getting something tangible versus getting somebody in there that can provide tangibles. Like, that's what I'm leaving thinking with this debate. I to be honest with y'all, Anaya and Genesis, I'm not all that confident in what's going to happen in November. I'm not. But I'm being for real. Not even joking. I honestly feel as if the polls oftentimes can lie. And I remember I interviewed Michael Baisden, who is another hero of mine when it comes to radio. And he asked me how I felt about the polls. And I told him, like, well, we know the polls lie. Because they said Clinton was winning by so much and then Trump won. And he said that was a good point. And when I said that, I thought about it. And that stuck with me, where it's like the polls don't really matter, but they are a snapshot of time. And the fact that you have someone that is not a politician, that is 50-50 with a senator that has gains, like you, and it's a lot of folks that don't like Joe Biden. It's a lot of folks that don't like Brian Kemp. But Raphael Warnock has really received bipartisan support in Georgia. If you don't like Brian Kemp, a lot of people are like, I don't like Joe Biden, but I rock Raphael Warnock. You don't like Brian Kemp? I don't rock Brian Kemp, but Raphael Warnock and John also, they're doing the thing. So I don't really see any opposition to the senators. I really don't. And not any real opposition. I see talking points, but I don't see any real opposition. So that's what sort of scares me. And just in summation, that's like, I just feel like people are getting ready to make the wrong decision. And they're doing it based off how they feel and not thinking out their decision. But I want to ask this as well, sort of to close this out. And this sort of leads to what I was just saying, y'all. I'm going to start with you, Genesis. How confident are you that Raphael Warnock will win this race versus Hershel Walker?
Well, I'm an optimist, so of course I'm gonna always have faith that he'll pull through. However, anything could happen, and the polls are unpredictable. But I feel like if me and Anaya and other HBCU students and other coalitions across the nation across the state of Georgia keep this work going that we're doing with voter education and voter awareness, then perhaps we'll pull through and that he'll win the race. Anything can happen, though.
I totally agree. So Anaya, last word to you. Do you think that after watching this debate that Raphael Warnock is a shoo-in? You think he's just going to win? It's going to be outright? Or do you have a little sort of an equivocation about it after watching this debate?
Like I said before, I don't have big expectations during elections because anything can happen. Literally anything. You may think he has one foot in the door, but them polling numbers and then the results, you just never know. You just never know.
Very true.
But I can say Warnock is a very good candidate, very poised, and he's doing great things right now. So I salute to him for that.
Totally agree. And for me, because I know it's almost 11, for me, like I said, I'm nervous. I'm very nervous because what's going to happen, I think, is going to be a really big, and Stephen A. Smith was talking about on this podcast, Republican wave. I agree with him. I think that the Democrats are poised to lose the House and the Senate. Now, I think Raphael Warnock is gonna win. I'm just not as confident. But we saw it in 2010, President Biden, not President Biden, but President Obama, Vice President Biden, President Obama, lost the Senate and the House. And what happened? What happened was the Senate with Mitch McConnell held up the vote for Merrick Garland to be on the Supreme Court. And what happened? You had Donald Trump that got in and put in Brett Kavanaugh, put in your Gorsuch, put all the different people in, Amy Coney Barrett. And now look at what happened to reproductive rights. So I think that the midterms are an answer to what happened 2 years before. And I think the answer to what a lot of people feel is if Joe Biden's not doing a good job. And even if some folks that aren't necessarily Republicans that still feel as if he's not doing a good job because they don't have money in their pocket, gas prices have gone up, inflation's up, and a lot of people are going to be voting with that in mind. And they believe that, you know what? I don't think Joe Biden's doing a good job because of that. His approval rating is low because of ideology, because how people feel, but also they feel as if they're not handling it the right way. People hate Vice President Harris. They hate her. So they're like, oh my gosh, she shouldn't run on the ticket. So I think there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to vote. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to vote for other people because they believe that President Biden is doing a good job. And I just think that's not right. But maybe if the 179 folks that are watching right now are listening, all I say is this: vote for who you believe. Got Lulu in here. He had his comments. The other folks here that were Hershel Walker supporters. We're Raphael Warnock supporters. Let's be honest. We're probably gonna vote for Warnock. All of us probably are. You know what I'm saying? Well, we are. I know I am. But like the big thing is, just open your eyes and read the platforms. You don't gotta listen to me. You don't gotta listen to it now. You don't gotta listen to Genesis. Look for yourself. Go to Hershel Walker's website. Go to Raphael Warnock's website, read the points, and decide for yourself who is best to be the senator for Georgia. That's all I got to say about it. But we reached the conclusion of our show. So first and foremost, I want to say y'all did a great job. You know what I'm saying? Y'all making me proud as an alumni. I'm trying to be Tom Joyner, man. Like Tom Joyner does so much for Tuskegee. I'm trying to get there. Oh my gosh. So, I'm trying to be that Tom Joyner for Fort Valley. So maybe this is helping. But I think y'all did an amazing job, and I think the audience, including the folks that didn't like me, they thought you did a good job as well. So I want you all to first and foremost let people know where they can find you. And I always say this: how can we support you? So I'm going to start with you, Genesis. You are currently legislative secretary for the Student Government Association at Fort Valley State University. So where can we find you on social media, and how can we support you?
You can find me on Instagram at Genesis Ivy. That's the main social media platform I use. I'm also on TikTok at Genesis Ivy. How can you all support me? I don't know what that means.
So support means like you have anything coming up? Like, is there anything with SGA that you need support in? Like how can we just support you? How can we show you love? Can we pray for you?
Yes, you guys can pray for me. Y'all can be active on Instagram. If y'all want to talk politics, talk anything else. I'm also a yoga instructor. So if you're in the area and you want to learn some yoga, I can teach you some yoga. But, just stay in tune with the life of Jen.
Erica, so to close out, dude, I got to go to work. Well, sir, this is not 2004. All right, you can put on your car, sir. What the world? Like, dude, you can put on in your car. It's 11 o'clock, dude. Golly. Like, I gotta go to work. Like, I guess you got Bluetooth in your car, sir. I got Bluetooth in my car. Like, God, you must work in a rural area where you don't got data. Like, golly, like the man said, close out. like it's a sermon. Like I get a benediction. Listen, like I might go 2 minutes just because of him. Anyway, now I'm playing. But Anaya, where can we find you on social media? And if you do have, an answer to how can we support you, can we pray for you, Sister Anaya? Can we pray for you? Okay. So I guess that's the support we need. So where can we find you on social media?
Like Jen said, you mainly find me on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at @the_Anaya_ on Instagram. And support-wise, I just want everybody to vote and vote correctly. Get educated on the importance of voting. Know who you're voting for. And show out to the polls and show out correctly. That's how you can support me in the state of Georgia at that.
Exactly. And so I want to end on this before we give our final announcements. Then we're going to close out for real. Hey, listen. Love you too, Lulu. Okay? He said, I disagree with you, but I love your peace and love. All right? Hey, you know, peace and love. Shout out to Dr. Pitts. She's still at Fort Valley?
Yes, she is. We love Dr. Pitts.
So Dr. Pitts got out of shout out all these 141 people. Let's just say peace and love, Scholar Barnes. I used to love that. If I didn't hear that, my day wouldn't be right when I would walk in Mill Hall. Peace and love, Scholar Barnes. Now I never took her classes. I heard her class was a little bit challenging, but she supported me. All right, so I didn't take it. I took Wayne's. Take Wayne. Anyway, I just want to say that. Say that, if you go to Fort Valley, take Wayne. He'll get you right. All right. Just saying. All right, Savannah State University in the house. So shout out to Savannah State University. Greg D, shout out to you, brother. But speaking of that, so we have a couple of announcements before we go. I was gonna read all of. No, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read that. So early voting starts Monday, October the 17th in Georgia. Saturday voting is Saturday, October 22nd and 29th. Your last day to request an absentee ballot is October 28th. Yep. Early voting ends on November the 4th in person. Yep. And to register for the runoff that possibly could happen, like it did in the two races for Senate with Ossoff and Warnock in 2020, that registration ends on November the 7th. And election day is November the 8th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And for HBCU students and also other folks that are watching, I see Virginia State University, Vince B in the house. So for you all, I want to spotlight some Senate races you all should be looking at because these directly affect HBCU states and cities and whatnot. So, of course, in Florida, Val Demings versus Marco Rubio. Alabama, Will Boyd versus Katie Pritt. North Carolina, Cherry Beasley versus Ted Budd. South Carolina, Crystal Matthews versus Tim Scott. Maryland, Chris Van Hollen versus Chris Caffey. Pennsylvania, John Featherman versus Dr. Oz, Mehmet Oz. Dr. Oz really running, y'all. What the world? Louisiana, Gary Chambers versus John Kennedy. Missouri, Trudy Butch Valentine versus Eric Schmidt. Kentucky, Charles Booker versus Rand Paul. Ohio, Tim Ryan versus JD Vance. If I missed a state that has an HBCU that has a seat that's open, let us know and we'll push that out. Make sure, especially for our HBCU supporters, that you all go out and support. And also, speaking of support, HBCU League Pass will be airing SIAC football on tomorrow. We are currently right now live on HBCU League Pass. Make sure to download the app and you can watch it on your computer as well. You can get more information from HBCU Pulse Twitter. We're going to be airing Benedict College versus Albany State at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is a really big game. Benedict is on the come up, and Albany, they've dominated. I'm a Fort Valley alum. They've dominated. And, they won the championship last year. So this game can have big implications. And Anaya and Genesis, for y'all, if Albany beats Benedict and Benedict loses another game, which I don't see a loss on their schedule, that would mean that the Fountain City Classic is going to determine who's going to the SIAC championship. So in a way, I guess we're sort of room for Albany. Because we want to go to the championship. I guess y'all gotta answer. I'm like, I don't know. I'm sort of conflicted because I want to see something new with Benedict. I'm proud of them, but you want Albany to win, so we can beat Albany, and then hopefully Benedict loses another game. We go to the SIAC championship. And shout out to Savannah State too. Y'all gotta do better. Okay, but I'm just saying it's gonna be on HBCU League Pass, so make sure you all support that. But outside of that, thanks so much for tuning in. We're gonna go on to end this broadcast. And I always like to say this, we will see you on the other side. Please vote. We'll talk to you later. And one last thing. Are y'all going to come back with me for the Stacey Abrams-Brian Kemp debate? Y'all coming back?
I'll back you.
All right, Lulu, come back. Lulu, come back for that. We're going to do Stacey Abrams-Brian Kemp. I think that's going to be very interesting. There's two debates for that one. So the 17th and 30th, we're going to be back for that one, all right? But thank y'all so much for tuning in. As always, we'll see you on the other side. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye.